From complete domination by Islam Makhachev in the first fight, to potentially having a big payday against the notorious one, here's the real reason Islam versus Charles must never happen. Two of the best lightweights on the planet clashed in October of 2022, and there was a lot of hype going into the fight. Islam was on a 10-fight win streak, while Oliveria was coming off his 11th straight win. It wasn't just a fight for the title, it was about the legacy of becoming the greatest lightweight of all time. Many people argued that if Charles were to beat Islam, he should have been called the lightweight GOAT over Khabib. So Islam wasn't just fighting to become the undisputed champ, he was also trying to protect the honor of his mentor and fulfill his late coach's dream. And boy did he do so with flying colors. Right from the beginning, Islam established his striking and looked pretty comfortable on the feet, which wasn't what we were expecting considering how good Charles' striking has been lately. Makhachev was also able to use his Sambo background to win the grappling exchanges, but it was ultimately his boxing that led to the finish. Islam dropped Charles with a right hand, and usually when Oliveira gets dropped in a fight, his opponent is scared of entering the guard and potentially getting submitted. But Islam isn't an ordinary grappler. It took him less than a minute to sync up a head and arm triangle choke that forced the tap from the Brazilian. And just like that, we had another lightweight king out of Dagestan. Beating a dominant champion like Oliveira really made him look invincible. But as the saying goes, every fight is different, and a rematch could potentially go the other way. Let's be honest, MMA fans have a memory of a goldfish. You could win 100 fights, but as soon as you lose one, everyone goes off. The former lightweight champ faced the same issue after getting dominated by Islam. He was already a betting underdog in the first fight, so not many people thought he could dethrone the new king. But what people seem to forget is that he's still the guy who holds the record for most finishes and submissions in UFC history. So all he needs is one opportunity, and the fight will be over just like that. The main issue I'd have is with the way the striking exchanges looked, because it looked like Islam was winning most of them. Oliveira performed pretty well inside the clinch. That was until he got tossed to the ground. Both Khabib and Islam were very confident in their grappling superiority against the BJJ black belt, and Islam did a pretty good job defending all the submissions. If a rematch were to take place, Oliveira would have to make a lot of improvements and control the action, because Islam doesn't make a lot of mistakes, and relying on it wouldn't be a smart choice. It seems like Oliveira was aware of what it'd take to get the belt back after losing to the champ, which is probably why he turned down a rematch in Brazil. We all remember the moment after Islam won the belt in Abu Dhabi. The entire stadium erupted as the new champ put the belt on Khabib's shoulders to show gratitude at that moment. Khabib decided to use the moment and set up the next fight for Islam against the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world, Alexander Volkanovski. The featherweight champ weighed in as a backup and was in attendance for the fight. So Alex versus Islam was set up, or at least that's how most people remember the story. The reality is that the UFC didn't want to book a champion versus champion bout. Instead, they wanted a main event for the January pay-per-view in Brazil. But it was reported that Charles and his team thought they weren't in the right frame of mind to take that fight. It's pretty understandable, as most people don't know what losing a title fight does to your mind. But perhaps the reason why Du Bronx wasn't willing to make a quick turnaround was that he knew he needed to get better. And in hindsight, it seems like he made the right decision, as his performance against Beneil Dariush was amazing. Everyone was excited to see the return of Charles Oliveira inside the octagon, and he was taking on the dark horse of the division. Dariush was on an 8-fight win streak, so everyone argued that he should have fought for the title already. It's kind of sad to see him lose such an opportunity. But the story of the night was the incredible performance by Oliveira that got him the first-round knockout. What makes things even better was the crowd getting behind the Brazilian, making Charles the biggest star on the card. Of course, Dana was quick to jump on the opportunity in the post-fight press conference and said Oliveira will have a rematch with Islam next. You see, Makhachev always headlines the Abu Dhabi card in October, so it all comes back full circle a year later. Not gonna lie, it'd be a great redemption arc if Charles gets it done this time. The former champ also spoke to the press after the fight, admitting that he wasn't himself the last time he fought Islam. "I know you also thought something felt off, but don't worry. He thinks if he can be his best version, the belt is coming back to Brazil." But as exciting as that sounds for Charles, Islam isn't interested in a rematch right now. Yup, as soon as Oliveria got the finish, the champ couldn't keep himself from posting a backhanded compliment on Twitter. The 31-year-old congratulated the winner, but reminded him that there are levels to this game. In another interview, Islam said that he was rooting for Dariush to win the fight, as he wants a new name on his resume. He wants a fight he's never had before. And if he has to move up to welterweight to find a challenge, then it's exactly what he'll do. The lightweight king clarified that he's not saying no to anyone. If the UFC asks him to defend his title against Charles, then he'd have no problem with it, but a personal preference would be the winner of the BMF title fight between Poirier and Gaethje, which seems strange because just a few weeks ago, Islam was dissing the idea of a BMF belt on DC's show. I could see why he wouldn't want to fight Charles again after the way the last fight went. When you dominate a guy from start to finish, you've got nothing left to gain from a rematch. If Islam wins again, no one would be surprised. But if Charles pulls off a Volkanovski and the fight gets interesting, suddenly Islam's stock drops despite winning. Right? I guess we gotta wait and see which direction the UFC wants to head towards. But the winner of the BMF title could create a gigantic fight. Now, the two former interim lightweight champions will have a rematch in July of 2023. If you remember, they fought in 2018, and Dustin got the knockout win in the 4th round. Many people believed it was the fight of the year, which is why they're having a pay-per-view fight. If you know anything about MMA, you'd be excited about this fight too. Both Justin and Dustin are two of the most violent men on earth, and there's no way this fight isn't a banger. Whoever wins and gets the belt will come out with a lot of momentum, and it'll be the perfect opportunity to make an undisputed title fight in Abu Dhabi. What makes it even more interesting is the fact that neither of these guys has fought Islam. So it would be a new challenge, which is exactly what the champ wants. But if we're talking about making big fights, maybe the winner of Chandler versus McGregor would be a better option. You can deny it all you want, but there's no bigger fight in combat sports than Conor McGregor. The Irishman will likely be taking on Michael Chandler after a 2.5-year layoff. And it wouldn't be the worst idea for the winner to fight for the title. You know how Chandler has been looking to prove that he has the style to neutralize the Dagestani fighters? He couldn't get the fight against Khabib, so maybe fighting Islam for the title would give him that satisfaction. As for Conor, he still hasn't moved on from the loss against Khabib back in 2018. The Eagle retired almost 3 years ago, and the Notorious One still believed that he'll get that one back. Maybe he plans on dismantling his protege and then making Nurmagomedov come out of retirement. As far-fetched as it sounds, I believe Conor is the only person who could get under Khabib's skin and make him return to the octagon. Right now, we can just wait for things to play out. But no matter who fights for the title next, it's gonna be super exciting, that's for sure. Well, there you have it, folks. From a potential money fight against the Irishman to the first fight being completely one-sided, these were the real reasons why Islam versus Charles must never happen.